Okay, getting on top of this month. It's currently the 2nd of, what was this, June? Yeah, June. Totally on top of it. 2nd of June, I'm finishing up my coffee. I just put the finishing touches on the encounter list for Lone Wolf Fist, so that's really good. That means all the different areas have 10 encounters each, which means I have a brief but robust list of 70 different unique encounters to actually stat. So, moving along pretty good. I'm up to, let me see, I'm about halfway through doing the very final pre-edit version of the different Kung Fu styles. Previous versions, the keywords were a little muddled, so there's no gigantic updates in this one. There's there's 3 issues, really, that I had to work with. The keywords were muddled. The cost versus benefit was a little out of sync, especially between the multi-attacks, which should be really comparable between the different styles. So those are 2 of the biggest issues. The third one was mostly just there was a lot of confusion within the text of the styles about how elemental control worked, and that was a keyword that really needed to get clarified because fully half of the styles are about controlling elements. So now it's really clear. It's clearly linked to one of 2 things that are more concrete in the game. How much you can lift in terms of just the raw amount, which is just on the strength chart, or it's a specific area of effect if it's something that's not really liftable. So like fire is area of effect, air is area of effect. Excuse me. Water and earth are amount you can lift. So that's much cleaner, ultimately. So yeah, just going through and unifying and making sure all the nomenclature works and the keywords are all accurate, and I'm basically just doing a quick editorial read through to make sure that the style clearly describes what it is that it's doing in terms of here is what the outcome should look like. Because a lot of times, especially with a role-playing game, you will have discrete powers that do a lot of stuff, but they kind of dance around the thesis that the author was going for. And I think that if you just put the conclusion first as a writer, and you're like, hey, this is what this should look like ultimately, and here's how it does that, you can help in the rulings and judgment calls that GMs are going to have to make to kind of rein in the weird excesses of a given power. So like the firebending is one of the ones that was like that a lot, where it's not, like there's a lot of stuff you can do because fire doesn't exist, right? I mean, not in like a concrete, easily definable, like subatomic way. So saying that you can make the carbonization of something, the oxidization of something into a movable power doesn't make any real physical sense. So, but there are limitations to how that works in the fiction where someone who controls fire shows up, right? Everything from X-Men to Avatar: The Last Airbender, like, there's a box in which I'm controlling fire works, and then it's not like you can turn any metal into slag immediately, or any, there's a lot of weird stuff you could do if you took this to, if you had a lot of scientific knowledge about the process of oxidization, and you're like, well, if you can oxidize things at will, that means, and extrapolate from there, and I really want to get people out of that mindset with this, and the best way to do that, I think, is just putting my best foot forward and saying, okay, look, remember firebending? Remember pyro? You're doing that. And here's how that manifests in the rules. The section on GMs making judgment calls and reining things in for their game, that's going to be a critical part of the GM section to write, which is actually the next target. After I finish up Chapter 2, I've decided just to go and move on to Chapter 3, so I have the bedrock of the game all the way from the core mechanics to the character creation to the advice running the game. Those are the most critical substrata of everything else that makes this game work. So we're going to go on to Chapter 3 next and do the GM stuff. I've got enough done with the bestiary in terms of how it conceptually hangs together, and just the raw amount of material I've got and a template for moving forward, that I feel like I can just kind of put that aside for later, because it's done except for having needed to, all the pieces are done. I just got to put them together now. And that can be a little labor intensive, and it does require like initial drafts and editorial drafts, and then I've got to send that to our editor and blah blah blah. But that's going to be everything. Right now the first chapter has gone through that and it looks really nice. The second chapter is currently going through that, and I did get some feedback from David. I think I probably mentioned this in a few of the other ones, where he was like, the secret arts are a little cloudy. That's probably the case, so I may just look at the secret art section and condense it even more and just be like, hey, look, secret arts just give you different things you can do with skills. That's all they do. And they have different kinds of things they can do, but that's it. They really rely on your Kung Fu to work. I like that. I like that because it places them in a hierarchy of important stuff for your character right behind Kung Fu, which is where it should be. This is a game about Kung Fu superpowers. That's what it is, and so everyone should be fighting about those. And I think that's how it presents in the fiction, too. Like, a lot of times in the fiction, this guy is an evil courtier who knows the evil courtier's art. Yes, that is true, and he has all kinds of nifty tricks that go along with that. But the thing that drives his power is he knows the 10,000 Dairy Needle style or whatever. I'm alternatively drinking coffee and water to get the caffeine and hydration my body so critically requires to think and write. I'm actually just a few minutes out from shaving and going to work. So I wanted to snap this video off real quickly just to make sure that you guys saw, look, I'm getting there. It's the first of the month again, back on the horse. I was just writing, I just finished up these encounter charts, and I was a little ashamed of these at first because I could think of 19 different encounters for the 20 that I needed, but then I realized the one I was missing was in Chrome Galaxy Laboratory, and I'd already written myself a freebie, because you have the psychic demiurges that the different psychics turn into whenever they fuck up and go all, Tetsuo on you. So I was like, sweet, that'll be number 10. You run into a psychic demiurge. I'm so happy about this. I also realized I could put in, like, visions and quests and things like that in there, because you could have, like, just go into a psychic shockwave and suddenly have this weird vision of something. And I was like, holy shit, that's really cool. And it'll serve as a good template for putting that in different parts of the game, too, I just rebranded a little as, like, a vision quest or some kind of magical enchantment or something. But the basic idea that you have a little mini adventure where you're wandering along and then, boom, another adventure happens. That's kind of rich. It's a good little vein to mine, I think, conceptually. So yeah, that's what's going on with the game. I am actually right now working on, let me see, what is it called? Unearthly Gift? I think it's Unearthly Gift. Yeah, I just got done with rereading the, let's see. Yeah, I'm up to the form right there. This is where I'm going to start again next time. I'm going to give myself a little thing. Start here. There we go. I need to re-examine the Prana Leak and stuff like that. It worked really well in the old paradigm because it was a closed system, and now that the system opens up in later rounds, it might get to the point where it's pointless, but I kind of think it's the same way that, like, Counterspell isn't, or, Monolith, not Counterspell. Monolith is like a version of Counterspell where instead of just stopping a spell, it's like, well, they have to pay a little extra. That's super critical when you have very limited resources at the start of a game of Magic the Gathering, but then turn, 7 or 8, it's pointless because you have so much extra mana, and almost no deck stays on the mana curve for 7 turns. That's insane. Like, even doing the full, like, Slay deck and going up to 5 turns is really challenging. But those are designed to win in 5 turns, so it works. But yeah, okay. So I don't think it's necessarily a design flaw that if a fight goes so long that it's absurd that your sabotage spell doesn't work as well. You can still surgically use it, because there is a cap on how much prana you can ever have, and it caps at 100 right now. If they want to use their ultimate technique... Oh, I guess it wouldn't work against that because it doesn't actually work against stronger than master level. Oh well. Sucks for them. But it does mean that those really powerful ones, they're going to have trouble doing that and a bunch of lower cost stuff. So there are still some benefits even in later rounds too. It's just not quite as great in the later rounds. And I think that there's one that screws with you in the later rounds anyway. Anywho, yeah, that's where I'm in a very design space right now. So, thanks for listening to my rambling. Look forward to the rest of the Kung Fu being done this month. That's my current goal. The rest of the Kung Fu and the beginning of the GM chapter. Maybe more, depending on what my energy looks like in the evenings when I come home to write. We shall see, but you're all going to be with me on this journey. Thanks again, true believers.